Is it the person? No, you're left. We'll take your ex-husband and put him in a rocket in a straitjacket. Let's shoot him to the moon. Now what?
Hello, and welcome to the Pacific Channel, where we talk about the law of attraction, how to manifest anything you want, meditation, and more. I'm your host, Steve Doherty, and in this audio clip, Dr. Joe Dispenza is getting interviewed by a host who asked him a question about forgiveness. Basically, he's a counselor, and he has a woman client who said that there's just no way that she can forgive her ex-husband. So the host asked Dr. Joe, what do you do in a case like this? How do you help somebody to forgive the other person? And Dr. Joe says, well, it's really all about knowledge and information, correct? If she knew and understood just how much damage she was doing to her own body by having these negative emotions, she would stop right away. But you can't just tell people to forgive, he said. But at the same time, you're giving away your vital energy whenever you do this kind of a thing, whenever you don't forgive the other person. And then he asked the question, who is worth 10 years of your life? People are addicted to the emotion, is basically what Dr. Joe says. Also, I would like to cover a law of attraction perspective that might help you with forgiveness. But let's listen to Dr. Joe now.
And you free them. And
what if someone says to you, Dr. Joe, look, I get what you're saying, but my ex-husband cheated on me, right? They shouldn't have done it. I cannot forgive them for what they did. And the reason I'm asking is because this is exactly what happened with one of my patients. Because this often happens. So I talk a lot about forgiveness, and a lot of people push back. They go, yeah, I want to, but you don't know what happened to me. This was really, really bad. It's like, this cannot be forgiven. What would you say to that person?
I'd say to them, I want you to think about something in your life that you've done that you would like forgiveness for, that you don't feel good about. And forgive that person in the way that you would want to be forgiven, and you would be forgiven yourself. I mean, we've all had indiscretions. Nobody's perfect. So that person that is in that state is still in the emotional state. The problem with that is that no new information can enter the nervous system that is not equal to the emotion the person experiencing, because it's not relevant. So the question really is how long do you want to do that? How long do you want to do that? And again, knowledge and information about what that is doing to that person's health and their biology. If you reason with them, we've had this happen enough times in our work. That's not an uncommon situation. When the person finally takes their attention off that and puts it on something else, they notice that they feel differently.
Yeah.
If they can, you can't just tell a person to forgive, because it's kind of an etherical thing. It's a subjective process, right?
Yeah.
So we've seen this. Our oxytocin levels in a lot of our participants go up 200 times, right? That's a lot of love. Oxytocin signals nitric oxide. Nitric oxide signals another chemical that literally causes the arteries in your heart and lungs to actually expand. There's more energy. There's more blood going into your heart. Okay. So when that person takes their attention off their ex, takes their attention off their past, and starts looking at themselves, denaturing that identity that's built on the past. See, that person had a reaction to that circumstance, and that reaction produces a refractory period of chemicals and emotions, right? And if you don't know how to control that refractory period, and it lasts for hours or days, it's called a mood. You keep that same refractory period going on for weeks or months, now it's a temperament, one long emotional reaction. You keep that refractory period going on for years on end, that's a personality trait. And most people's personalities are defined by, I am this way because my husband cheated on me. What you're really saying is, you haven't changed in 10 years, and you're giving your vital life force to that person. Who is worth 10 years of your life?
Yeah.
Who's worth it? So then, the stronger the emotion we feel, the more we pay attention to the cause. Where you place your attention is where you place your energy. That person's giving their vital life force to heal, their life force to change to that person or that circumstance. lower the volume to that emotion,
Yeah.
you take your attention off that person or problem. It's not the person or the problem. They're using unconsciously that person or that circumstance to reaffirm their addiction to that emotion. That's why they keep thinking about it. If they weren't addicted to that emotion, they would stop thinking about it. So then, is it the person? No, it's you're left. We'll take your ex-husband and put him in a rocket in a straitjacket. Let's shoot him to the moon. Now what? Now what? Now what are you gonna do? You still have that
Still got
embossed in your brain and conditioned in your body. At what point? So then the research on oxytocin, you can only talk around this. You can't say to someone forgive if they still feel the emotion. They're separate from the act of forgiving.
Yeah.
Imagine feeling so much love by no one's doing it to you. It's actually coming from within.
Yeah.
You have that moment, that catharsis, where you feel that emotion. Oxytocin levels go up just slightly in the research, just a little bit more elevated. An elevation in oxytocin makes it impossible to hold a grudge. They've done the research on the data. You cannot hold a grudge. It's impossible.
Yeah.
You just go, I like this feeling better than that feeling. And because I like this feeling better than that feeling, you're okay. Forget about it. I'm good. That person who falls in love again, whose husband cheated on them, who falls in love again and finds a person who is intelligent and caring and kind and loving and provides, all of a sudden they can forgive that person. Like, oh my God, that had to happen because now I have a better person in my life. Well, if you don't let go of that, you're never going to have this. In fact, if you bring that into the next relationship, you're not going to have a healthy relationship because there's going to be a trust issue on every level. So then you want an equal? Write down exactly what you want and become that person and see what comes to you. Try it out as an experiment. If I really work on, my God, this emotion is actually, now that I understand the science behind this emotion is actually weakening me every day. It's knocking my brain and body out of homeostasis. Stress is when our brain and body are knocked out of homeostasis and balance. Turning on the stress response just by thought alone. Hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease. My thoughts are making me sick. Is that person or that circumstance worth it? If my thoughts could make me sick, is it possible that my thoughts can make me well? Well, now you got to come up against the belief. No, I don't really want to believe this. Then that really means that you want to stay in that emotional state. But go see some testimonials of people who've had that and see the life that they're living now. The miracles, the synchronicities, the opportunities, the coincidences, the healings. They bless their past. They say, my disease, that condition, that was my greatest teacher.
Yeah.
That was my greatest teacher. And now the soul is free. Like, let's get on. In eternity, it's a big place. You got to hold on to that emotion for how long? You're not doing anything wrong. You're just taking too long. That's all.
Yeah.
And it works. It works with anything. With any, some people want wealth, some they are bankrupt, some people, their business partner, took all their money. Some people it's a relationship, some people it's trauma from childhood. It's all the same. But what we're looking for is wholeness. So then it's not just the emotion. The emotion is driving a certain behavior. The emotion is driving a certain habit of action. The emotion is driving a certain series of thoughts that are associated with that person or that circumstance. If you truly believe that you have the power within you to change, the first step would be saying, I have to take responsibility for myself right now, because I got to start thinking differently. I got to start acting differently. I got to start feeling different. It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
If it was easy, everybody would be doing this. But how was self-love born? I've studied this. When the person sits through the fire and sits through all of that anxiety, all that hatred, all that anger, and keeps lowering the volume, sooner or later, the body's going to release it. And when it's released, forgiveness is the side effect. You take your attention off that person because you no longer have the emotion to keep your attention on. And in fact, you feel so good. This feels better that you naturally forgive. It's not like, now you're forgiven. It's not like, hey, look at me, I'm forgiving you. It's just kind of like, wow, isn't life great?
Yeah.
Whoa, you're good. I mean, you're good. I'm getting on with my life right now, right? So emotions keep us stuck in the past, and we tell that story and we reaffirm it, we get in trouble.
It's, it subjectively feels better to forgive and practice gratitude and joy. But biochemically, you change as well. This particular patient, when she did ultimately learn how to forgive, because her lifestyle, her diet was fantastic up to that point, but she had chronic high blood pressure. As soon as she started to learn how to forgive, blood pressure starts coming down.
Sure.
And you know this full well. Like, it's, yes, subjectively feels great, but it is literally changing your physiology at the same time. And
let me just say one thing about that, because you could have the most organic, vegan, gluten-free, ketogenic, triple filtered water, take all your vitamins, take all your nutrients, work out, do Pilates, do yoga, do your breathing, you do all of that. Get your body chemically balanced, get your body physically balanced. But if you're not going to get your body emotionally balanced, forget it.
Yeah.
Because the moment you get emotional, your body literally goes to the past. That's the one that matters the most. And people, once they realize it's the emotion that's signaling the gene, oh my God, I better start really taking care of my emotional balance as much as I do with my physical exercise and my diet and all that other stuff.
Yeah, I completely agree. This is, for many years I was focused on food and movement and sleep, and I still am.
I am too.
Those things are important, but I realize actually, if you want to get to the root of the root, it's up here.
Yeah.
It's how you think. It's how you deal with conflict. It's how you approach the world. It's also, Dr. Joe, what you said about awareness. Like the really powerful idea, one of the many powerful ideas I get from your work is it's about evolution, right? So if you've never meditated before, sure, start meditating. Learn how to meditate. Have a great meditation. Great. That's going to be better than if you weren't doing it. But then learn, I had a great meditation, but I still was judging my coworker. I still reacted to my boss. Okay, cool. Tomorrow, I'm going to see if I can show up and not react in that way. So it's not, and again, we're talking about trauma. You're not saying don't go back and revisit it. You're just saying, hey, maybe don't stay there too long. Maybe if you've been trying to process it for 10 years and you're still there, maybe it's time to shift a little bit. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and look, we're human beings, we're so programmed for survival. And when you're in survival and you're threatened and there's a danger, you prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
So the person who's traumatized is actually anticipating the event to happen again. And they're preparing themselves for the worst case scenario, because there's better chances of survival if you prepare for the worst. So the brain naturally fabricates an outcome, but it actually says, well, what if this happens? And what if that happens? And now this is a really vivid imagination, but it's working against us in a lot of ways. So there's nothing wrong with this. We've all done it. You've had a trauma, you've had an insult, you've had, a betrayal, you have whatever, and then you get wise from the experience, but then you're always, if it's really a strong trauma, then you're expecting it to happen again, right? So the brain is selecting out of the infinite potentials in the quantum field, the worst case scenario, and then emotionally embracing the outcome before it happens, a thought and a feeling, an image and an emotion, a stimulus and response, and they're conditioning their body into the mind of that emotion. They're reliving their past in their future every single day in the present moment. And now it becomes a very visceral and subconscious process. So it takes an enormous amount of will. It takes an enormous amount of awareness and energy to break that apart. And we have so many brain scans of people that have severe anxiety. And you cannot be anxious if you're in the present moment. And they just kept catching themselves, going to that thought and feeling that feeling and bringing it back. And then getting frustrated and going, and then all of a sudden they're there again. Well, why are they there? Because they've been practicing that. You keep practicing feeling anxious, you get really good at it.
Yeah.
You start practicing feeling gratitude, you get really good at that. We're doing a study with children in Australia, and I say to them, you practice being angry, you'll get good at being angry. You practice being kind, you get really good at being kind, and it feels better.
At its core is
So, what advice would Dr. Joe give to this woman who couldn't forgive her ex-husband? Basically, he said that he would have her think of something that she would like to be forgiven of, and then apply it to him. See, the problem is that our thoughts can make us sick, and most of us don't understand that. And so holding on to a grudge or holding on to anger or even guilt and other low vibration thoughts and feelings can really harm you, and they can manifest into your body. So the other point that he made was that we need to stop giving our energy away to people. The other point was that disease was one of the greatest teachers for a lot of the ones who overcame the anger and were able to forgive. Dr. Dyer once said, "Those who know how to push your buttons are your greatest teachers." And it's so true. Those who know how to push our buttons bring out or allow us to see what we still have inside of us. Dr. Dyer also said that you cannot give away that which you do not possess. So if you don't have any anger in you, you can't give it away. You're not going to display it to anyone. But if you have some of it in you, then you understand and you know that that's something that you need to work on. So the other point that Dr. Joe made was that you don't want to bring that old energy of anger and resentment towards an ex into a new relationship. So it's really important for you to raise your vibration before you get into a new relationship. That's why a lot of us keep on recreating the same kind of person over and over again in multiple relationships, because we don't clean up our energy first. We need to let go. We need to forgive, not for them, but for us. There's a saying that goes, "Others may not deserve your good thoughts about you, but you do. You deserve to have the good thoughts about everything and everyone. You deserve to have good thoughts about others, even though they may not deserve it." So Dr. Joe said that one of the other things that you can do is sit through the emotion, and then it is released. So it's a process of, whenever you're meditating, of feeling the emotion and then sitting with it and just letting it be and then letting it go. And that's when miracles will happen. That's when you will be able to heal yourself. And he also said that you're going to get to a point where you feel so good that you're like, wow, ain't life great? Isn't everything just so wonderful and peachy, whatever? So we get to the point where we feel so good that none of this other stuff matters. In other words, you don't even really need to forgive someone, because you almost feel like it didn't even happen, or it's not necessary to forgive them. One of the other points too from a law of attraction teacher is that your health is 95% from thoughts and vibration, and only 5% of what you eat and exercise. This is what Abraham says. So that gives you an idea or a perspective of how important it is to think positive thoughts, how important it is to keep your vibration high. You know, everybody is so like veganism or the keto diet or other diets, and that's only a small portion of it. What's so much more important is the thoughts you feed your mind. So basically what Dr. Joe said too is that whenever you fall in love, and Dr. Bruce Lipton also says this, whenever you fall in love, you give off all these wonderful hormones in your system, and all these wonderful things start to happen to your body because you're in love. And whenever you get to the place where you are feeling that kind of a feeling, it's much more easy for you to forgive the other person then too. So that's another tip for how to forgive. So if you practice being anxious, you're going to get good at being anxious. If you practice being angry, you're going to get good at being angry. But if you practice being kind, you're going to get good at that too. So what is the moral of the story? The moral of the story is to forgive everyone, not for them, but for you. Practice kindness, practice feeling good, and you'll not only attract better things into your life, but better health too. If you like this video, please click the like and subscribe button. And if you feel so inclined, please leave a comment below about forgiveness and what you think about it. Thank you, and have a good day or night.